Welcome back, and today we're going to be doing the 2025 NFL Mock Draft 1.0 for YouTube at least. Technically for Twitter, or you want to go on my sports page at Sports Bruisers, it is 6.0, a pinned comment all the way at the top there. Just posted it now. So again, first one for YouTube. I might try and post one or two more before the draft. We're getting pretty close. 11 days away, the 24th being round one. So without further ado, we're going to be getting into it. The first few picks are going to be kind of self-explanatory. I'll talk a little about them. It's going to be the second half that's going to be a little more tricky with this. So getting into it, for the first overall pick, pretty self-explanatory, Cam Ward. Consensus first overall pick has been that for months. At some, early on there was Abdul Carter before the combine, but Cam Ward's really solidified that throughout the whole, since then, and they desperately need a quarterback. Whether you agree with it or not for taking a quarterback here, it's pretty evident that Will Levis is not the franchise quarterback anymore. It's someone that they can't trust and are moving off of him, or keep him on the roster and have him as a backup, whatever they want to do with that. But Cam Ward to me first overall. Next one for the Cleveland Browns, I have Travis Hunter going here, and there's a lot of reports lately they have Hunter now being the second overall pick, which I don't know what to even believe anymore, because they said Abdul Carter was a lock for second overall. Now all of a sudden Travis Hunter's a lock for second overall. So who knows with that? For me, Travis Hunter just fills more voids than Abdul Carter. Carter's more just I don't want to say consolation prize, but definitely it's just something nice to have. A great pairing alongside Myles Garrett, but Travis Hunter brings more to the table for the Browns. Great pairing alongside Ward, or potential replacement for Ward because of the injury concerns with him and the concussions, as well as wide receiver. He instantly comes in and becomes wide receiver one when he steps on the offensive side of the ball. Good pairing with Jerry Jeudy, and again, just for more versatile for the Browns and what they need. So next, for the third overall pick, I do have Abdul Carter. Maybe a little bit redundant because they have Burns, they have Thibodeaux, but Thibodeaux has really taken a step back in his third year. He had a great second year. Third year, he took a step back, and I don't know. I just don't know what his future is going to hold. Again, it might be just too many edge rushers on here, but when you have someone like Abdul Carter, that is a much more proven commodity. I think even coming out of the draft as a prospect than Thibodeaux, I think you take that. I think it's a great pairing alongside Burns, and then for Thibodeaux, you kind of field some offers for him. I don't know how much what you would get in return for him, but to me, I would certainly take Abdul Carter over Thibodeaux moving forward with that. So you get your game wrecker on the defensive side alongside Burns and help really ensure that pass rush there. So for the fourth overall pick, I have Will Campbell. Got to protect Drake May. They have one of the worst offensive lines in 2024, and it's pretty evident. Will Campbell to me is the best offensive lineman in the draft, so it's a great selection there. I've seen some people have Mason Graham going here, but for me, offensive line is a much bigger need than Mason Graham. If Abdul Carter was on the board still, I would lean towards Abdul Carter, but Will Campbell, to me, is head and shoulders the best prospect on the board for the Patriots and what they need. So next for the Jacksonville Jaguars, the whole time, all 6 mock drafts, I've had Mason Graham going there. I think they need interior help to help alongside Josh Allen, or Josh Hines Allen, and then Walker as well, and to really help that pass rush in Jacksonville. Some people have offensive linemen going there. Some have going, Will Campbell falling to 5th overall and him being selected, or if you want to put Armand Mambo there as well as 5th overall, I get it. Outside chance maybe Tyler Warren because of them getting rid of Ingram, but for me again, reassuring that defensive line is big, no doubt. 6th overall, I always fought against it early on. But the last few I've had him going here, and this one too, Ashton. To me, this kind of seemed a little too high for Ashton, and I thought there was a little more need for the Raiders than the running back, but with them bringing Geno Smith, doesn't seem like they'll take Shedeur Sanders at this point. McMillan, certainly is a possibility here as well, but for me, Ashton is a potential, I don't want to say generational player, but he certainly has the chance of being that, especially when you look at his last season in college. For him being second all time, if you include bowl games, playoffs, second all time in rushing yards in a single season outside Barry Sanders. It was astonishing, and you can question the talent that he faced. You see on the right side here, the big school he faced was Penn State, and he did struggle against them in the playoff game. Outside of that, nothing too special. The last one also was Oregon. Well, he did put up decent numbers in that one as well, I should say. Sorry. So you had Penn State and Oregon, who we faced. Oregon, not too bad. Penn State didn't really do too much. But you look at the numbers, amazing. It's phenomenal. And Pete Carroll loves to run the football. And to me, Ashton Jennings would be a good selection here for the Las Vegas Raiders and what they want to do. You pair him up with Brock Bowers, who had a historic rookie season for a tight end, not just for a tight end, but for receiving wise in general. To me, that's a great situation for Geno Smith, bringing talent around him. Wide receiver is definitely an issue as well, but again, I think for Ashton Jennings, it's you look at in terms of a talent of a prospect much higher than for me McMillan. So next for the New York Jets, this is where I do have Tyler Warren going. They seem pretty set on building around Justin Fields and getting a lot of talent around him. Tyler Warren would definitely be a amazing selection here. Pair him up with Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and the running back committee and what they want to do. Amazing pick right here for this one, Tyler Warren. That's especially a spot that they desperately need at the tight end position there. And again, I think that would really help Justin Fields. And if they really feel that Justin Fields is a quarterback one and can be their guy for the future, immense help right there. You look at the stats, more of a receiving tight end than your typical tight end that you always think about. Run block is definitely lacking in this one, but the two things that really jump out at me for the advanced stats is the missed tackles forced and the contested catches, third and second, respectively. And you look at the stats here, over 1,200 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns, great size, 6'6", 261. Next for the Carolina Panthers, I'm going to give them the versatile linebacker edge, Jalen Walker. This could be a spot as well for McMillan, and I think for a little bit I did have McMillan going here in my earlier ones, but it's certainly be a possibility. And I also have Warren, Warren. I think maybe last mock draft or 2 mock drafts ago, going to the Panthers. But I just look at this one, and for Jalen Walker, what you can bring to that side of the defense for again versatile linebacker, edge rusher can be definitely a game changer. That's what they're really lacking ever since they got rid of Burns is just the pass rush, especially the sacks. So I look at what he brings to the table. Good, a little bit smaller, 6'2", 245, but again, versatile, can do a lot of things, and I think that's something that the Carolina Panthers really need on that side of the ball. Wide receiver, absolutely. I can understand if you wanted to say McMillan at the spot to help Bryce Young, absolutely get it, but I have Jalen Walker going to the Carolina Panthers. Next for the New Orleans Saints, this is where I have the next quarterback coming off the board, Shedeur Sanders. Having slipped in a little bit, I think early on I had him 3rd, the farther 7th. I do have him falling to 9th overall. There are teams that are quarterback needy, like if you want to say the New York Giants, the Las Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, but for me, it looks like even though that is still a glaring need for them, they're okay with passing over a quarterback and going with their respective players with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston for the Giants, Geno Smith for the Raiders, and then what you talked about for Justin Fields with the New York Jets. So for the New Orleans Saints, there's a little uncertainty with Derek Carr in his future. They restructured his contract, but the cap issue does get pushed back into 2026, which is I think is almost $70 million for his cap hit. It may be time, pretty soon to get rid of Derek Carr, and for this when you move forward for more for the new head coach, which is Shedeur Sanders. Maybe Shedeur Sanders doesn't really jump off the table or off the the stats for or visually I should say for his physical build, not the strongest arm, not the biggest quarterback, but does well with accuracy and his mental game as well. To me, I think he is going to be a good quarterback in the league. People to me are kind of bashing a little too much because of just the arm strength. I think it's good enough, it's solid, and I think he'll have success, no doubt about that. Again, accuracy and the mental aspect is his strong suit. 6'2", 215, similar build to Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is maybe 10 pounds heavier than Shedeur Sanders, but to me, you're getting a good quarterback here for New Orleans Saints, getting ready for Shedeur Sanders and then new era. You can sit behind Derek Carr for a year, of course, and then 2026, when they have to get rid of him or really have to have the discussions about getting rid of him, you have your next franchise guy there. So next for the Chicago Bears, I have the second edge rusher coming off the board here. I do have Mike Green. Had an amazing season this past year, 17 sacks, 10 hits, 32 hurries, 1 batted pass. Decent size, 6'4", 248. And this is something that the Bears are really missing on that defensive side. I think in my last mock draft, I did have Nick Miori going very high because of just how versatile he is and the size he brings at 6'3", 227. But I think for right now, I think the defensive line is more of a need than safety. And for this one, again, for me, I have Mike Green is my second edge rusher in this draft. I always go back and forth as well with Donovan as well. But for this one, I have Mike Green going to Chicago. I think good fit there. Need to get more pass rushing help. If Ashton Johnny somehow fell to 10th overall, I would absolutely have him going here, as I had some early mock drafts. But for Mike Green, I have him going 10th overall. So next for the San Francisco 49ers, I have Jahad Barron. Outside of Travis Hunter, if you want to talk about full-time position for the corner, Barron is the best corner on there. Again, Travis Hunter is the number one, but in terms of playing 100% at the corner position, as opposed to Travis Hunter, who we don't know if, we presume he's going to mostly be corner. But in terms of 100% full-time corner, yes, Jahad Barron is the next one off the board, or first one off. Going to have to depending on how you want to look at Travis Hunter. That's something they need. They lost some help in the secondary this offseason, and Barron can step right in and do a phenomenal job. He can do everything. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. All of them look, the stats are immense off the board. The only thing that's a little bit worried is just the completion percentage here, but you look at the pass rating, 34.2, and you see where he lined up on here. In 2023, majority of his snaps was at the slot position at 389, and this past year he played 679 out in the corner, but still played a decent amount in the slot. So again, very versatile where you can line him up, and that's something I think the San Francisco 49ers really need on that one. So second cornerback in terms of listing, if you want to include Travis Hunter on there, if you're someone that looks at him that way, or if you look at full-time corner, Jahad Barron, number one. So next for the Dallas Cowboys, I do have McMillan going here. His fall ends at 12. Brings great size, 6'5", 212. You look at his stats, over 1,300 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns. The comparables, great. Advanced stats are good, are solid. McMillan is a weird prospect because a lot of people, or I should say a lot of people, there are people out there that don't view him highly, in terms of this local area here for Buffalo sports. So there was one person I heard that said that they would rather take Keon Coleman over McMillan, which to me I thought was a little bit crazy to say. But McMillan, the concerns, that video came out not too long ago about him not studying, but then people were saying that's a old clip from years ago. So I'm sure that maybe hinders his draft stock a tad bit. But outside of that, just concerns around just as a prospect in general. But for me, high upside and what the Dallas Cowboys need, it would be an amazing pairing alongside CeeDee Lamb if he can hit his potential here. Got great size, 6'5", 212. I think ran a 4.4 at his pro day. So if he can hit his potential, no doubt about that. They have an amazing duo in Dallas between Lamb and McMillan there. And to me, it's almost a similar scenario as CeeDee Lamb, where you kind of look at the draft board for Jerry Jones and go, this is too much to pass up. When you have McMillan, who early on for me at least was relatively high as far as, I think I had him like 8th overall or 6th overall at one point, falling to 12. I think amazing value for what he could potentially be for the Dallas Cowboys, and that's something that desperately need at the offensive side. I mean, offensive line sure is a need, no doubt. They lost to Zach Martin, but I can see the Dallas Cowboys just falling in love with McMillan at this point and just taking him. So next for the Miami Dolphins, I have the next offensive lineman. I have Ahmad Mumbo here. With Armstead retiring, you have to try and reinsure the offensive line. You cannot take a chance once again going to this upcoming season with Tua getting hurt potentially and suffering more concussions. So that's pretty self-explanatory. I've had Malachi Starks going here for a little bit, or Nick Amiri going here as well, but with offensive line help being more evident each day, and especially again for Armstead retiring, that has to be the number one priority for the Miami Dolphins. So 14th overall, this is where I do have Nick Amiri going. Again maybe a little too high for him at the spot, but like I talked about a few picks ago, comparing where I have him going to Chicago. Great size, 6'3", 227. I think people are going to look at this as trying to get the next Kyle Hamilton. Again, I think he's high potential in what he can do. Very versatile, no doubt about that. You can put him in the typical safety or line him up around the defensive line with the linebackers and stuff, slot, whatever you need him to do. To me, I think that's something that teams are going to fall in love with, no doubt about that, is just his versatility and what he can bring to the table, similar to what I talked about for Jalen Walker at this spot. So, again, maybe a little bit too high, but I think his physical attributes is going to get him much higher than maybe his production. So next for the 15th overall pick, I have Jahad Campbell here. To me, is a good spot for him. I've seen some mock drafts have him going a little bit higher. I've seen some that fall immensely into the 20s, but it's a good spot for him, no doubt. I think linebacker is no doubt a need for the the Atlanta Falcons at this spot. Or anything on defensively in general is a need for them. Offense, they're fine. They have their wide receiver in Drake London. They have Kyle Pitts. How you feel about him? Maybe he'll finally break out this year. You have Bijan Robinson. You have Michael Penix. You have a good offensive line. So anything on defense is needed. Again, I think linebacker is more of a glaring need. Edge rusher, absolutely as well. But I think, again, for Jahad Campbell, falling to 15th overall is a great pick here. Next for the the Arizona Cardinals, I have Will Johnson. Secondary is a big need. Outside of Budda Baker, not really too impressed with anyone else, and Will Johnson is a phenomenal corner. Did get hurt this did get hurt this year with only 6 games played. If he played a full season, probably would have been much higher on the in the draft. Good size, 6'2", 202, and him and Barron always battling out for cornerback. The next cornerback, I should say, cornerback 2 outside of Travis Hunter. Again, depending on how you feel about Travis Hunter in that spot. So sometimes early on, I did have Will Johnson going ahead of Barron, but Barron to me as a late, or not late, but definitely the last few months has taken over as a cornerback 1. But that's no disrespect to Will Johnson, still a great corner. I think it would be an amazing selection for the Arizona Cardinals at number 16. So next for the Cincinnati Bengals, I do have Donovan going here. They need pass rushing help. Hendrickson, we don't know what the future is going to hold for him. It's pretty in limbo. They're asking for a lot in return for trade. If they want to try and keep him, the money's just too much for them. So looking for your next franchise pass rusher, or at least for a year, pairing alongside Hendrickson would be immense there. Anything defensively, I don't think there's anything for the Bengals. Nothing should be for the offense. They are fine. They are set there, regardless of how you feel about maybe the offensive line. But defense, it has to be defense. Most of this draft has to be defense. They were horrendous last year. If they were just subpar, they would have made the playoffs. And who knows what they would have done once they got in. But defense needs to be a priority. Donovan, great pass rusher here. The only thing a little bit concerned is just a little bit undersized, similar to Mike Green, just 2 inches shorter with 6'2", 247, but was highly productive. 14 sacks, 10 hits, 26 hurries, 0 bad passes. And you look at the comparables, great all across the board there. So next for the 18th overall pick, I do have kind of a run going on for the edge rushers here. I do have Mikael Williams, just a little bit of a raw product here, relatively young, still young, not even 21 years old yet. But you look at the size there, 6'5", 265. Production, got nothing too crazy, but someone you can develop, and I think he'd be a good pass rusher in the league here. The true pass rush grade lacking 61 for the grade, but the pass rush grade is a little bit above average, 78.7. Run defense is great, 82.9, as well as a run stop, 7.6. So again, there's high potential here. In terms of development, I don't think it's someone that comes in right away and dominates, but maybe take a year or two to get settled in. So next for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I do have another pass rusher going off the board here. I have James Pierce Jr. for this one. Same thing too. People kind of worry about his weight wise. It's at 6'5", 243. But to me, it's still gonna be a great pass rusher. Took a little bit of a step back last year from 13 sacks to 8, hits from 11 to 4, hurries from 28 to 43, which was a huge jump up for him. Bad passes stayed relatively same. And you see on here for the alignment, basically on par with what he's been the last 2 years. The grade hit took a little bit of a hit if you care about that, 90.4 to 87.1. But you look at the comparables, again, still great all across the board and played good competition. So not to worry about James Pierce, but I do think just because of his size, especially the weight, that people are going to, he's going to slide a little bit in the draft here. But great selection for Tampa Bay. They need the pass rushing help, or anyone in general, like Malachi Starks or not Kenneth Greg, actually Vita Veda, but Malachi Starks, as well as maybe want to have someone else in the secondary on here as well. But great pick here for 19th overall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So for the Denver Broncos, I have Amarian Hampton, second running back off the draft here, or off the board. Some people have him going very high. As far as 12th overall, I don't see him being a top 10, top 15 prospect. To me, it's a little too high for my taste. But Hampton is absolutely phenomenal. 6'1", 220. Stats great, 1,600 yards rushing. 15 touchdowns. Some people I've heard as go as far as say they have him higher or above Ashton Jennings. Take it for how you will, but still a great running back in here. Not just that, but just all the running backs in the draft here in the general, very deep class. But no doubt, Jennings and Hampton are the top two running backs for me. Comparables, the advanced stats, good. And you look at, again, decent competition they face, but definitely be a great help for Bo Nix and what they need there. Wide receiver can certainly be a possibility at the spot, but you look at for Luther Burden, Emeka Egbuka, running back is a huge need. They were severely lacking at that spot throughout the whole season. And at times, Bo Nix being the leading rusher, you can't have that. You have Sutton, Marvin Mims, good wide receivers there. But to me, I think you need your home run hitter with Marvin Hampton here that can really be very versatile in this offense. So Marvin Hampton 20 to the Denver Broncos. Next for the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe a little bit controversial for this one. Certainly quarterback has been mocked lately to them, but I do have Malachi Starks going here. I think he's a talent that you can't pass up. Sure, you have Milroe, you have Dart, whoever you want to look at for your next quarterback, Will Howard, whoever it may be. I think you can wait until the second round to get these guys. I'd be a little bit, I don't want to say not surprised at all if they go in the first round, but to me, I think these are second round picks, and you want to trade up to get one of these guys or have one of them fall to you potentially. I can certainly see that. If you really are in love with one of these guys, for Jalen Milroe, again, Jackson Dart, whoever it may be, take him first, with the 21st overall pick. But for Malachi Starks and what you can do, I think it'd be an amazing pairing between him and Mika Fitzpatrick in that secondary there. To me, Fitzpatrick has been, for most of the process, being the number one safety. To a point, I still believe he is the number one safety. I just think because of his size, and again for Nick Manuri, because of his freakish ability at his position, it's going to take him a lot higher and be the first safety off the board. And then, of course, with other needs as well, pushing Malachi Starks down on the draft boards here. But great selection, 6'1", 205, great pick here for the Pittsburgh Steelers to reinsure that defense, especially that secondary, alongside with Porter Jr. and so forth. So next for the Los Angeles Chargers, I have the other controversial edge rusher, Shamir Stewart. Great size, but very low production. Good run stuffer, not the best pass rusher. I mean, only 2 sacks in each of his last 3 years. He does line up decently, over the tackle, outside the tackle. Great size on here, 6'6", 290. But in the combine, I think he was in the 260s, I believe. But again, at least for Profile Focus, 6'6", 290. Great size there. It's just a pass rushing ability that is a little bit concerning. But if you can get that down, great. That'd be an amazing pick there. Already a great run stuffer. It's just the pass rushing ability needs to be much higher, and it's a lot left to be desired with only 2 sacks each of his 3 years. So next for the Green Bay Packers, I do have another receiver coming off the board here. I have Matthew Golden, just solely because of his speed. In the 4.2s, late 4.2s, but 4.2 nonetheless. And that's something I think they are really lacking for their wide receivers. For Christian, for their big body wide receiver, just injury problems as well. That's the only issue. I don't think they really have their true number one wide receiver, and you can say this kind of a little bit controversial calling Matthew Golden a true wide receiver one at the spot here, but again, for the upside and what he can do, it's immense here for Jordan Love in this offense. Christian Watson, there you go. Forgot his last name. Christian Watson, just unfortunately just injury prone. Great size too, great speed, but just unfortunately has a health issue. So Matthew Golden being an outside threat, again with that 4.29 speed, would be immense for this offense to get you that. For Josh Jacobs, what he mentioned, we needing a wide receiver one. So maybe a little bit controversial calling on that, but I think it'd be a good selection here for what he can bring to the table for the Green Bay Packers of this one. So next for the Minnesota Vikings, I have interior defensive lineman, and I have Kenneth Grant here. This is, to me, I love him as a prospect, a good run stuffer, nose tackle in this one, 6'3", 339. Pass rushing ability is good, but again, you can't really look too much in terms of the sacks, but just more being a great run stuffer. You look at that run defensive grade, 87.5. The true set pass rush grade is good, 77.3. Run stop is 7.9. Pass rush is 9.4. Pass rushing grade is 7.3, like we talked about. So again, I think a great interior defensive lineman. And this is something for me personally, for the Bills, I would love for him to follow 30 and maybe try and trade up to get him, because I think that'd be something that the Bills desperately need. But for the Minnesota Vikings there and the Mike Flores, or the Flores defense, I think it'd be a great piece on the defensive line to really stuff the middle of the offensive line as well. Maybe giving you some of that ability for the pass rushing. Not saying he's going to be a huge person in terms of the sack column, but if he does give you a few sacks this season, absolutely immense, no doubt about that. Just a bonus for him. So next for the Houston Texans, to me, this is it's pretty evident. It has to be offensive line. They've kind of been, especially for Larry Tunsil being gone, this is huge. They have to do this. Kevin Banks can can play tackle, could play guard, but no doubt they have to help C.J. Stroud. It was, certainly an issue this past year alongside the play calling as well. It was just the offensive line just didn't really help C.J. Stroud at all, and have him take a little bit of a step back in his sophomore season. Offensive line needs to be the number one priority for the Houston Texans in keeping Stroud upright and getting back to the rookie season he had for his stats and success. So next for the Los Angeles Rams, saying two, I have Gray Zabel here. Offensive line two needs to be better for the Rams, especially for Matthew Stafford getting up there in age, can't take the hits that he once could. So again, self-explanatory. Your tight end could be a spot here close to Loveland, but with just a higher priority for me at least for tackle or offensive line in general. That's something they can wait on. They can get a tight end later in the draft there for being a starter or being a rotational piece for that position. Offensive line to me is a big issue. Is the biggest issue here, especially again for Matthew Stafford and him getting up there in age. And if you thinking that you can still compete, gotta keep your quarterback upright and healthy. So next for the Baltimore Ravens, I do have interior offensive line with Tyler Booker. Just trying to reassure that offensive lineup, helping the running game for Derrick Henry as well as Lamar Jackson. You could go on the edge rushing side here or reach for a corner. Edge rushing, you still have Nick Scorin on the board, as well for corner, you still have a good amount of Trey Amos, Benjamin Morrison, Maxwell Harrison, Chevelle Reveal available. But I have interior offensive line for the Baltimore Ravens here. It brings good size too. If you want to look at his stats here, 6'5", 325. Does need a little bit of work, no doubt about that, which is why he's late in the first round. But to me, it's a good selection from Baltimore at 27. So next for the Detroit Lions, I have interior defensive line. I have Derek Harmon. This is kind of a little bit opposite of Kenneth Grant here. Gives you much more of a pass rushing ability than Kenneth Grant here. I always go back and forth on here. He's mocked all over the place. I see him going relatively high in the early teens or falling this far, but great size, 6'5", 310. And I think just any help for Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line to give you any help whatsoever, especially the interior defensive line if they need help with that, and he gives you that best of both worlds, the run stuffing ability and more so the pass rushing ability to get pressure from inside and try and replicate what the Philadelphia Eagles did against the Chiefs. And I think what any team would like to do is try and get pressure from the inside and have your edge rushers try and contain the quarterback and get to them. Derek Carr can certainly do that with alongside Aiden Hutchinson. So next for the Washington Commanders, I have the next interior defensive lineman going. I have Walter Nolan. With them getting rid of Allen and trying to have the next pairing we try alongside Payne. I think this is pretty a good pick here. 6'3", 305. I got another person that I've had relatively go a decent amount. I think the earliest I'm going to is the Cincinnati Bengals. I am following a little bit this one. Just not because of any disrespect towards him or thinking any loss of him. It's just other players taking a higher need for teams and him kind of falling down the draft board here. But Walter Nolan be a great selection here to replace Allen and to really reinsure that defensive line there. So next for the Buffalo Bills for my team, this was a little bit tough. I didn't know where to go with this one because I think there was a lot of selections here they can go to. Offensive, for the offense, you have Luther Burden, you have Emeka still on the board there, and you probably are screaming like it's evident. It's obvious you should go for these guys. High talent, falling to 30. I just don't see, unfortunately, Brandon Beane looking at that way. I think it's defense, and what he's going to go to. And it was more so the corner position that I was struggling to go with because there is all four of these top four guys. I mean, maybe they can go in the second round and get Darian Porter, Isaiah Thomas. I butchered probably his first name, but Thomas from Florida State could certainly be day 2 picks for the Buffalo Bills. I did have Trey Amos going here. Again, you could probably it's tough. I mean, I don't want to say there's a reason why I absolutely love Amos. I think all of his picks I would take absolutely. I can understand each of them. Just Trey Amos, 6'1", 190, brings good size here. The stats all around are great. Passer rating was 54.5, which was a huge jump compared to his last year and the year before, from 77.3 to 79.4. You look at the coverage stats, 85.6. Run defense was 81.1, which is big. Completion, maybe a little concerning with 51.6. Man coverage, 75.4. Zone grade, 78.9. You look at the advanced stats as well, and played some decent competition, no doubt about that too. So, especially from Georgia. How do you feel about Florida at that point? But you have like Arkansas, Oklahoma, South Carolina. So good competition to go against. Maybe you have some from flashbacks to last night. Took an SEC corner in Kaiir Elam, so hopefully it doesn't pan out that way. But for Trey Amos, regardless, whoever you want to put at the cornerback position, I think corner is going to be a selection here. I would absolutely have interior defensive line like Harmon or Walter Nolan, but with them going to Detroit and Washington, to me, I think your focus shifts towards a cornerback position again. If you want to plug and play any of these guys, have no problem whatsoever. I just have Trey Amos going to 30 in this one. So for the next one, for 31st, for the Kansas City Chiefs, I have offensive line here. It was pretty, we all saw it on the Super Bowl, and especially, throughout the whole season too, but especially in the playoffs and the Super Bowl, it's a huge need for Patrick Mahomes. You got to keep him upright. Wide receivers are good. They have Rashee Rice coming back. They have Xavier Worthy, who had a good rookie season. You bring back Marquise Brown. Hopefully, he can stay healthy and have a full season with them. You have Travis Kelce still, so you are good at the wide. You are good at the pieces or for the skill sets there. Running back, maybe it's a question, but I think I do see Pacheco bouncing back and having a much more productive season than he did last year. So you have all that. It's just offensive line needs to be rebuilt. Josh Simmons here, good selection here with great size with 6'5", 310. And then finally, for your Super Bowl champions for the Philadelphia Eagles, I have the edge rushing help here from Nick Scoren, just a rotational piece. They lost some people on that side in the offseason, especially from Sweat. So again, just someone that's just a plug and play rotational. Solid stats, 6'4", 285 for the size, 8 sacks in 2023. Took a step back in terms of that to 4 sacks. You see all across the board, did have a little bit worse season in 2024 than in 2023, but again, to me, it's just a rotational piece and someone that they can plug and play as well as for everyone else they have there. So I have Nick Scoren rounding up the top 32 or the first round, the 32nd overall pick. Let's see, and once again, just give you a look at the draft board. You're going to scroll down 1 through 32. This is my final selections for mock draft 1.0 on YouTube, or technically 6.0 if you go to my Twitter page. Got pinned on the top comment there, or pinned to the top post on my page. So that's going to wrap it up. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you think about my selections. If I was completely off on some of these players, if you like the selection I have for your team, let me know. And maybe in a few days we'll get ready for 2.0, the second video for mock draft for YouTube on this one.